I get no thrill from champagne. Mere alcohol doesn't thrill me at all. So tell me, why must it be true that I get a belt out of you?
It'll be along any moment now. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where, did you hear Disney Star Wars has canceled The Acolyte? Well, if you didn't, then maybe you felt the great disturbance in the Force, as if a million comedy YouTubers cried out at once, wondering when they're going to find a new thing to write jokes about, and they were suddenly silenced. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. Welcome to the Blast Radius. Glad to be with you this evening. Here is your Decline of Western Civilization news roundup for the work week ending 23 August 2024. Dateline Chicago. Monday, 19 August. Minnesota Governor and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz, who seems really weirdly determined to double down on this whole stolen valor thing, doubled down on the stolen valor thing earlier this week when he had himself introduced as retired Command Sergeant Major at a DNC workshop on Monday, because it takes a lot of guts and a lot of conviction when you get busted about lying about your military record to go right on lying about your military record like nothing ever happened. You know, our betters in the mainstream fake news media were lecturing us all week about how Tim Walz is the paragon and the exemplar of an acceptable type of masculinity. And I do have this much to say for him. He does indeed have a gigantic set of testicles. I've got no idea where he sticks the tampon, frankly. Now, I was on the record in the beginning that it wasn't for me to say whether what Tim Walz did rises to the level of stolen valor. Only people who served can make that determination. But he has shown that he is a liar who lies about lying. And I am qualified to judge that. You know what else I'm qualified to judge? The way they keep trying to play this guy up as a football coach. Boy, they are really leaning into this football coach stuff just about as hard as they can. They've got him closing his convention speech with a whole flurry of football coach references, out having the ball and driving the field late in the fourth quarter. And what's the only problem with all that? Well, the guy was never a fucking football coach. much less the football coach at the high school like Joy Reid and other liars keep referring to him. The dude was a volunteer defensive assistant for one season in the late 1990s. To call him a football coach, to build his whole fake political persona around being a football coach, well, it's goddamn defensive to actual football coaches who devote their lives to doing the important work of molding boys into young men, and the good ones leave the world a better place than they found it. And Tim Walz damn well shouldn't be stealing their valor any more than he should be stealing the valor of guys who did the work and retired as command sergeant majors, unlike him. But hey, if nothing else, at least we got a visual that I will never forget until the day they throw dirt on me. An arena full of liberal Democrats wearing camouflage trucker hats, rocking out to Sweet Home Alabama, a song that stands for everything they claim to detest, and being totally blissfully oblivious to the incongruity and the unintentional irony of it all. Dateline Milwaukee, Tuesday, 20 August. Another week, another corporate DEI department bites the dust, and this time, it's Harley Davidson. And if you're a normal, sane person, you're probably wondering right now, wait, Harley Davidson? Isn't that the last of all companies that should be hiring a woke European douchebag CEO and jumping on the DEI virtue signaling train? Well, yes, they are. I mean, isn't Harley Davidson one of those brands that guards its identity and its street-level credibility more zealously than nearly any other brand in history? Yeah, at least they used to. Right up until they got the bright idea of hiring a European douchebag CEO and publishing their ESG scores and churning out mountains of rainbow-themed biker apparel. Because I'm sure it went over really great with the customer base. Hey, Big Mike, me and the other guys in the outlaw biker gang, we all pitched in and got you a new rainbow-colored leather vest to celebrate your 20th killing. Isn't it so cute? And besides, we don't want people thinking we're a bigoted outlaw biker gang, do we? If that ever happened, why me and Knuckles and Johnny Hammer over there, we might have to go and have ourselves a good long cry. But amazingly, so it seems, customer outrage isn't the actual reason that Harley Davidson is jumping off the woke wagon and fleeing in terror. It's actually because Robbie Starbuck was 24 hours away from dropping an expose on their ass in which he exposes the full extent of the company's DEI buffoonery since the European douchebag CEO took over. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but if I was the board of directors of an American brand, an iconic American brand whose core customer base is guys in outlaw biker gangs, and I was in the market for a new CEO, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that my ideal candidate would be an effete European metrosexual who probably rides a bicycle to work and eats bugs, dirt, and white guilt for lunch every day. But no, Robbie Starbuck went to the company. He said, fair warning, I've got this expose. I'm going to drop it tomorrow. Just wanted to do the ethical thing and notify you guys and give you a chance to respond. And it seems like Harley Davidson struck their colors immediately, rolled over and showed their belly. Pick whichever metaphor you like, I guess. They put out a statement saying they are ending all of the following with immediate effect. No more DEI functions. No more supplier diversity spend goals, whatever that means. They will no longer participate in any sort of ESG scorekeeping. Sponsorship activities are changing and will focus exclusively on motorcycling, first responders, active military, and veterans. No more woke training struggle sessions with socially motivated messaging inside them. The moral of the story is, it is amazing what a little honest journalism can achieve. Well done, Mr. Starbuck. Very well done indeed. Dateline Chicago, Wednesday, 21 August. In one of the greatest bits of election year political trolling you are likely to ever see, the Donald Trump campaign responded to Kamala Harris's 36-day-long refusal to list any policy positions on her campaign website by doing it for her. That's right, Mr. and Mrs. America. If you're looking for more clarity on Mrs. Emhoff's positions than she seems ready to provide, you can pop right on over to Kamala2024policies.com on your magic little internet machine, and they'll get you fixed right up. First, there's a helpful list of bullet points with titles like Fighting to Set Murderers Free, Bidenomics is Working, Rising Costs Are Nothing to Worry About, More Taxes to Make Sure the Middle Class Pays Its Fair Share, Abolish Borders, Bring Back the Green New Deal, and this next one is my favorite, I think. Kamala believes in freedom for individuals associated with violent behavior, formerly referred to as violent criminals. And the last one is, there's two more. Ending the wrong-headed thinking that more police means safer communities, and eliminate private health insurance and give Social Security and Medicare to illegals. And this is all fair play, frankly, because she is publicly on the record as actually supporting all of that stuff. And she will remain so until she musters the courage to answer questions and clarify the record. Granted, we've had her campaign surrogates running around trying to disavow and back away from some of the wackier things she has come out in favor of over the years, but I'm sorry, that's not something you get to do in the third person. It's just like one of those CNN hostesses said the other day. Yes, I'm actually about to endorse something that was said on CNN. If she wants the nuclear codes, she needs to answer questions from the press. And it's remarkable, it keeps getting more so, that she's not even willing to attempt like a friendly softball interview with a fellow traveler fake news personality, like the kind of interview where they give you the questions beforehand and you're allowed to make your own edits before the thing she won't even do one of those. But I forgot. None of that actually matters. You know why? Because joy. Can't you feel all the joyousness? The joyful, very, very joyful joyousness all around you? Or is that just me? Dateline Boca Chica, Texas, Thursday, 22 August. Elon Musk, the owner of Twitter with an X, or whatever the hell we're supposed to call it, took a moment this week to heap mockery and derision at the social media platforms he doesn't own and all of the big cell phone providers too for their weird refusal to let people have emojis that look like guns. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently that's where we are now with the gun grabbers. They are no longer content to grab your actual guns. They also want to make damn sure that you are not trafficking in cartoon images of guns either. The companies specifically listed by Musk were Apple, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, Facebook, and his very own Twitter with an X. And he put up a fun side-by-side graphic showing all the firearm emojis they used to have a decade ago that they no longer have. And apparently, the only kind of gun emojis you are allowed to have now are Nerf guns and paintball guns, which seems pretty reckless to this reporter. I mean, all the experts say that Nerf guns and paintball guns are a gateway drug to AR-15 addiction. In fact, according to a recent study in the journal Gun Grabbers Quarterly, 97% of all people who become spree shooters once saw a cartoon image of a Nerf gun. And if that's not evidence of causation, I have no idea what is. So what are we going to do? Just ignore the experts? Reject all their data? Well, that's what Donald Trump and the NRA would like us to do, by God. In fact, I think Elon Musk should be charged as an accessory in every gun murder that has taken place since he acquired Twitter with an X and recklessly reversed the policy prohibiting realistic animated depictions of firearms. It is a statistical fact, after all, that every perpetrator of a mass shooting since Musk bought Twitter has had a Twitter account. So again, are we going to follow the evidence? Or just let this maniac keep murdering people with cartoon guns? You tell me. Dateline, Solingen, Germany. Friday, 23 August. At least 3 victims were killed and several more grievously wounded in this western German city this week when an Arab-looking man went apeshit and started stabbing people at the local Diversity and Inclusion Festival. But wait, I hear you say, a Diversity and Inclusion Festival? That's the stupidest thing I ever heard of. Why does such a thing exist? Well, dear viewer, I am glad you asked, because I think you're forgetting maybe a little bit how things work in Europe now. You see, in the new Europe of the 21st century, Europeans are strictly verboten from commemorating European history or celebrating European culture or anything like that. So this event, where all of the wonderful multicultural stabbing happened, it used to be the annual celebration of the cityhood of the city that they've been doing every year since the Middle Ages for 700 or 800 years now. But now, they have to call it a Diversity and Inclusion Festival because the only things that Europeans are allowed to celebrate are mass migration and sex perverts. And do you want to hear what the prototypical cucktastic woke douchebag European mayor sounds like? Well, listen to this load of feelings from Solingen Mayor Tim Kurzbach. Tonight we are all in Solingen in shock, fright and great sadness. We all wanted to celebrate our city anniversary together, and now we have to mourn the dead and the injured. It breaks my heart that there was an assassination attack in our town. Tears in my eyes when I think of all those we have lost. I pray for all those who are still fighting for their lives. Now, some men in the same position might express, let's say, shock and anger at such a dastardly crime having been committed. They might promise to hunt down the murderer and bring him to justice, but not our man, Mayor Tim. Mayor Tim, he just needs to go have himself a good long cry and think about his feelings. Then he probably needs to go have another good long cry. Because that is what history demands from the new masculinity of the 21st century. When there's a crisis that happens, a real man, a real leader, collapses into a puddle of emotion and just starts weeping uncontrollably. The Euros have got this all figured out already, and look how great they are doing. Hopefully we backward American cowboy Neanderthals won't be far behind. And that's the end of the roundup. Given our present arrangement, I'm not sure exactly what happens right now, so I'm just going to say I'm kicking it to our mystery guest producer over to, what's his name again? Grande Admiral Snowflake, is that it? Yes, take it away, Grande Admiral.
Tactical nuke incoming!
Ooh, I got a compliment on my Teutonic accent.
Dude, that's beautiful. That was great, dude. Also, Johnny Hammer might have been a little too far because I think I might have met Johnny Hammer one time. Oh, bother. It's been a heck of a week, dude. Like, what kind of wildness have you discovered out there in the wild west of the news world?
Well, like we mentioned backstage a little bit, I'm still trying to get over that whole thing with the arena full of Democrats in camouflage trucker hats rocking out to Leonard Skinner.
Exactly. How much AstroTurf can you lay down? And
how much? Yeah, and the ballsiness of it is really a thing to behold. The ballsiness and the shamelessness. There is no avenue of pandering that these Democrats are unwilling to go down.
Right?
Camouflage trucker hats, for Christ's sake. That's a real thing that happened. At the Democrat, did they have camouflage trucker hats at the RNC? They did not. So you tell me who the real men are.
But those people wearing the hats were all women.
Yes. A strangely large proportion of them were women. So I guess they
Oh, hold up. Apparently the price of gold is high. I don't know.
Yeah, that'll happen when your economy is being run by people who can't tell their ass from a hole in the ground.
Right. I mean,
It always does stimulate the precious metals market.
Ooh, that's pretty. Yeah. Oops. I destroyed everything. I'm sorry. So we have a wonderful, wonderful case of Disney setting things straight, and another case of Harley Davidson setting things straight. See, this whole American model of business, it kind of precludes the idea of putting other things before business. So when you have an American company that decides to get a German PR exec, or what was it, CEO?
CEO, yeah.
This is exactly what you expect to happen. You expect them to immediately crash as much of their money as they can into the stupidest programs they could think of. Because
it's the exact same thing that happened with Bud Light last year.
Exactly how that went down. That's not even an exaggeration.
Yeah, they got bought out by a German conglomerate, and they Eurofied everything, and all of a sudden we had Dylan Mulvaney as a Bud Light pitchman, and we all know how that turned out.
You see, I don't think this is coincidental. I think somehow, somewhere out there in the world, it is worth it to someone to spend this absurd amount of money to destroy American franchises.
And to intentionally rot the culture from the inside out. Because I mean, otherwise, how does $180 million get spent on the Acolyte if they're not intentionally trying to wreck brands and rot the culture?
Right. I get you. And it's an amazing thing to me to the idea that I wouldn't be surprised to find out that instead of a season, you get a major motion picture out of this Acolyte BS.
Oh, wouldn't that be a hoot?
Yeah, I think, dude, that makes my ooh. Go ahead.
And speaking of major motion pictures, we've got a bit of promotion to do here tonight because they're Sunday, September 15th, one night only, 50th anniversary theatrical re-release, Blazing Saddles. I am making my whole family go. You should too. Because I think what better way to give a gigantic middle finger to the woke establishment than to make this the highest grossing one-day 50th anniversary theatrical re-release in cinematic history. I think so many people should go to the damn thing they have to schedule more days. That's what we should do. I should probably hand out business cards at the theater.
Wouldn't be a terrible idea. But I got a soundbite for you. I got a soundbite for you.
Near lost a $400 hand card.
That's all for you, bud.
Slim Pickens, national treasure.
Man, I love some Slim Pickens, man. I don't think there's anything he ever did that didn't get a little bit of a giggle out of me.
Oh, I know. I just watched Dr. Strangelove yesterday, and he's so good in that. Even though it was kind of cruel that they didn't tell him at first that it was a comedy.
Right.
They made him shoot all his scenes playing it straight, and then they told him it was a comedy and had him do his funny stuff.
Right. Promotion. Yeah. Oh, the humanity.
Have you ever seen such cruelty? Yes, I do know every line in this movie. Proud of it.
Yes, me too. Yeah. And you want to know what's going to be really funny when you go to the re-release? The cosplayers that are going to dress up as their favorite characters. This is going to be
God, I hope so.
Better than Rocky Horror Picture Show. Think about it.
It seems like it's a pretty wide re-release if only one night and two show times, because it's showing at both of the theaters that are nearest to me, and it seems like most of the ones in the county are showing it. So it's probably wherever you live, it's the same way. I would surmise.
Find out if Blazing Saddles doing a re-release local. Doing a re-release.
I should tell the story about the first time I ever remember seeing Blazing Saddles, because I remember it quite vividly. Now, if you're a young person, this is going to take explaining, because there used to be these things called drive-thrus.
Uh-oh.
You would put your family in the car and go to a place and sit in front of a big screen, and two movies would be shown. And oftentimes, when they wanted to get entire families out to the drive-in, they would schedule, every screen's got a double feature on it. And oftentimes for the family double feature, you'll play, say, the opening picture will be a new release, family-friendly kid picture. And then what you do is the kids put their pajamas on at home. They've got blankets and pillows in the back seat. Then you watch the first movie, the kid movie, and then the kids are supposed to go to sleep in the back seat while mom and dad watch the second, more adult-oriented feature. And that's how I first saw Blazing Saddles, or the first time I remember, because the and the drive-in screen where I saw it is about 300 yards from where I currently live. But the first feature that night was The Ghost of Witch Mountain. And Blazing Saddles was the second feature. And then we watched the first movie, and then I went and laid down and started going to sleep like I was supposed to. But my parents were laughing so fucking hard at Blazing Saddles I couldn't go to sleep. So I wound up secretly watching from the back seat, trying not to laugh. I never heard my parents laugh that loud in my entire life.
I use Blazing Saddles as my personal form of subversion, right? You see, it is impossible to be one of these woke butt hats and watch Blazing Saddles and not realize some level of cognitive dissonance in your life. That 50 years ago, people were laughing at this, and today you will have a straight anxiety attack if anyone alludes to these ideas.
Yes. Much less speak lines from the movie out loud.
Oh, God. Man.
But yeah, and the especially difficult thing to get young people's minds around is the fact that this movie did more to smash racism than every politician who ever lived put together. Because it really did. That is the truth. If there was ever a death knell that got driven through the heart of American racism, it was that fucking movie.
Yeah. Yeah. For the reality of it, I mean, you've got some real hard cases out there who just want to live in Charlie Manson's world, and I refuse to do it.
Right.
I just won't.
Yeah, but the you know, the hard cases are pretty few and far between when you get right down to it. The softies, the fence sitters, the people who are more easily persuaded. This movie had a great effect on people like that.
Right. Here comes, never mind that bullshit. Here comes
Johnny Waddles. Hey now. Good to see you, my friend.
One of my favorite scenes. Candygram for Mongo. Candygram for Mongo.
I'll probably get a strike if we show the horse punching scene.
Oh, almost definitely, dude. I've got to stop messing with Florida Man. I can't decide. Listen, I can't decide whether they're upset that those guys were drinking beers or that they were tickling an alligator's chin. Because,
you should tell the story of the strike for the benefit of the audience.
Okay, so I've been doing this series on my channel called what level of Florida Man. I would find some video of somebody doing something silly somewhere in the world and be like, so what level of Florida Man is this? Like, dude fighting a raccoon, guy getting beat up by a possum. This dude's driving his four-wheeler across the bottom of a pond with scuba gear on, like this kind of stuff. Right? And I come across one where these two guys are in a boat and one of them's like laid out in the boat with a beard and the other guy goes, hey, there's an alligator over there. And of course, being Florida Man, he leans over and splashes the water, right? So the alligator comes closer and he reaches over and hooks him under the chin, real gentle like. And when he lifts the gator up, the gator opens his mouth and he spikes a beer on it, tosses it to the boat driver, spikes another one and lets go of the alligator. And they both shotgun a beer and move on. And that's the video. That's the extent of it. All I did was laugh at it. Like
cruelty to animals.
Florida level 100, and they hit me with a cruelty to animal strike, and I still haven't found the cruelty in that video. No one was harmed. Nothing was harmed. I
and it wasn't even you. And it wasn't even you doing the thing.
Yeah,
some guy you never met.
Right, and all I did was laugh at it.
And all you did was laugh at it. But we don't need to have any unauthorized laughing.
Apparently that is the thing. I laughed at something that someone else found not funny because I thought I'd found level 100 Florida, and it turned out I found First Strike.
And I guess Blazing Saddles is pretty high up on the list of things you're not supposed to laugh at these days.
I bet you, man. I wonder if the re-release is going to be edited.
Because I've had such great fun, as I know you have too, showing that movie to woke youngsters who are triggered by anything that wouldn't have been socially acceptable after 2009.
I have a whole clan of newfies that apparently had never encountered Blades and Saddles, and I had we game with a handful of them, and one of them decided to come in StreamYard. We watched Blazing Saddles after dark, and I've never heard a man laugh in Newfie accent so hard in my life. He just couldn't keep it together the whole time. It was just
Oh, I know. Yeah,
he's never seen it, and he's like, "This is crazy! Like, how does this exist?" And I'm like, "Well, back in the day, America wasn't nearly as exclusive as it is now."
and it still has the ability to have that effect on people. It can make people laugh harder than they have ever laughed before. And how many movies can you say that about?
Oh wow! I mean, there's some really hard hitting scenes in this film too. There's a couple of where all right. So like one of those that's like deep down dirty, like Mel Brooks went under the belt on this one. There's a scene where they are signing up ne'er-do-wells to go and pull an old number 6, right?
Oh yeah, yep, I know the line you're talking about.
You can't even drop that line right now. Don't do it.
Oh no, we can't even drop that line. There's no way.
But the way the main character and his cohort sneak into this line is because the last 3, and you have to know it's something about stereotypes to really get it, because every evil stereotype from media history is lined up literally in timeline order. Like the Huns and the Germans are there in the same line.
Yep.
And, so
yeah.
So the very last, this is done in the 50s, 60s, right? So the very last ne'er-do-wells in line are the KKK. And Gene Wilder's like, "Hey, I got an idea." And he grabs the black guy, throws him out in front, and says, "Hey, fellas, look what I got." And dude steps out and says, "Where are all the white women at?" And then he throws
Where are the
him
white
back
women at?
And the two Klan members immediately bump each other like, "Hey, let's go beat him up," run around, and they steal their sheets to get into this, to infiltrate. And it is one of the most hard-hitting racist / anti-racist where you simply laugh at it because it's so freaking absurd. That's right before he tries to clean the black off his skin and turn his hand over and show the light color.
Yep. How many times have I told you to wash your hands after the weekly cross burning? Hey, Queen Bird. Great to see you.
Hey, Queen. Hey. Rawr. But yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. It is beyond amazing.
And that is exactly how you smash racism. By making people who might have regrettable attitudes about each other sit together and laugh at the same thing, because those people will never hate each other again after they have sat together and laughed at the same thing. It is an amazing curative, laughter is.
And not just laugh. This movie, regardless of where you stand on the spectrum, will find the sweet spot on your silly to such an extent that you may very well have cramps.
Yep. Oh, I know. Yeah, I literally remember having stomach cramps from laughing at that movie so hard.
Dude,
the kind of uncontrollable laughter where it starts being difficult to catch a breath. Like you lose the ability to breathe because you're laughing so hard. I've been there with this movie.
Yeah. Yes. So okay, picture it. There's 5 or 6 very drunk rednecks at a bar one night. We're all sitting around and we're laughing and joking. And there's another group of 4 or 5 really drunk rednecks at the bar. And we're going back and forth a little bit. Folks have started throwing ice back and forth, and it's fixing to get rough, right? Any second now. Everybody
hit me. I'm working for Mel Brooks.
No, everybody. I really wish I thought of that line. That would have been better. Everybody stands up and they're kind of looking at each other, and the jukebox stops playing, and I go, "I'm tired of being admired." Everyone starts singing it like it just falls in as if it was meant to be. And suddenly half the guys out of my group, half the guys out of their group got in a conga line, started kicking like the can.
There it is.
Dude, it's just when you're laughing, it is impossible to be angry.
It's true. It's a great thing about humor.
My favorite thing about humor is you don't get to decide what you think is funny, and that tickles me to no end.
Oh yeah, but the people in charge sure would like to change that.
Yeah, they want to dictate what you find humorous, and I find that distasteful myself.
Yeah, I mean when your government starts going down the road of deciding what you're allowed to laugh at, you should be pretty horrified by that, frankly.
We got a yacht sinking in Italy. So kind of the Bayesian.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I read that they're opening some sort of manslaughter inquiry into that incident, and I'm not exactly sure why. Are you familiar with that at all?
Not really. I read a little bit about it. I got a channel that I go to for like boat related stuff, and he'll eventually do a video on it. It's Waterline Stories. And I don't trust.
Oh yeah,
nothing.
I know that channel.
Yeah, until he says it's something, I don't believe it's a thing. He's never led me wrong. When I went and checked anything ever, it's always been right on point.
Because the first story I read about it sounded like the vessel just got swamped in the storm and was not necessarily oriented in the best possible way, and she just foundered. But if they're opening a manslaughter investigation, maybe that's not so simple.
Well, we're talking about a super yacht. I would assume it's supposed to be capable of dealing with, at least average, if not, extreme seas. Yeah. It's a super yacht. So I'm assuming somebody had to do something wrong somewhere for this thing to go down. And that's just me. Deadpool and
Aliens. And you don't very often hear about ships foundering when they are moored and at anchor, which I think this one was.
Deadpool and Alien top the charts again as Blink Twice sees a very quiet opening.
I saw the Deadpool picture. Have you seen it?
I have not. Oh my God. I can't wait, dude. I used to, there's a couple of old comic books where Deadpool meets Wolverine. And then there's also like, I can't remember who did it, like a Dark Horse or Amalgam or something like that. Back in the 90s, there was a bunch of weird crossovers. And the way they did it is they would name, like Deadpool would be Dark Soul or something like that. And then they'd name the Hulk, the Mountain or whatever, and they do a comic book where obviously they stole the concepts, but they didn't want to get sued, so it's just distinct enough that it doesn't catch a copyright claim. Anyway,
yeah, I got the references and the Easter eggs were flying so hot and heavy in that picture. I would have to watch it, I think, another time or two in order to absorb all of it.
Did you ever watch Loki?
Yeah. I did not love season 2 nearly as much as a lot of people did.
Well,
wasn't crazy about season 1 either.
I mean, it's got its problems. I was kind of hoping that they would try to resolve the problems through quirky time travels, but they really didn't. They didn't do that at all. Essentially,
yeah, they did so much changing of the temporal frame of reference that it just becomes impenetrable after a certain point, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. At least it does for me.
I think that's part of the point, though. The idea is that you've got this one overarching individual who, in every version of himself, is a conqueror. It's baked into his genetic template. He cannot help but to rise to a realm of leadership in every facet of himself.
Right. And that's the other big problem with this show that obviously they couldn't have known about it when they were making it, is that it was supposed to function partially as a vehicle for introducing Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror to be the big bad in the next couple of Avengers movies, but we all know how that turned out. That's not going to happen anymore because apparently he likes to slap around his significant others.
But it could have been such a cool arc, though. I mean,
yeah, if they had gotten him to tone down that performance a little bit, it could have worked. And also, don't have him get defeated by Ant-Man, maybe. If you're trying to build him up as the big bad for the next Avengers movie, I'm just saying.
Well, it's not technically him. It would be a different Kang. But in any event, I mean, this this is one of those series that if you're gonna have the conversation, you kind of got to have an agreement on what perspective the conversation is coming from, because it is done in a way that allows you to interpret different aspects of it as being more important than others. And you don't get any obvious distinction between one particular instance of an individual versus another particular instance of an individual. And so they could have walked off set and a different one walked on at any point in time. It's only the
I like
concept
the character that Short Round plays. He was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, that was great fun. I really
Yep.
enjoyed it, especially when he's talking to the guy. Like, there's a guy there that worships the guy who wrote this book, and Short Round's the one that wrote the book, and so they end up having a conversation with each other, and the fact that they're it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
I think
That
the
There's a
Aren't
few
they-
good scenes.
isn't the Agatha show coming out pretty soon?
Hold on. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's how many years has it been since WandaVision? Isn't it like over 3 years now?
Yeah.
And doing
It was longer
doing a
than that.
spin-off series around a minor character from a 3-year-old series is,
That was
maybe
like-
not the safest bet. So I'm curious to see how it does,
That was
especially
one of the
how
first
woke it is.
that was one of the first properties that launched after the pandemic, right?
Yeah, it was those the first two things that they put on Disney Plus were WandaVision and then Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right. And we all saw how
Both
that
of and I was fine with both of those shows. I mean, they both had problems, but
was-
if they would have
WandaVision- huge
if they would have
continuity.
maintained that quality level, I would have kept watching the stuff, but they didn't.
They didn't. They never had any intention to.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I got a theory. I got a theory. I want to run this one by you.
Go for it.
So here's my theory. When Bob Iger got kicked out last time, he went into the database and shuffled all the franchise scripts around so that nobody would know what script went to which franchise. And that's really what we're dealing with here.
It's not the craziest theory I've ever heard.
I mean, that would make more sense to me than them intentionally running the shit into the ground.
Or they've got a super sophisticated AI robot that's been writing all of this stuff ever since 2020.
2020. Yeah. Actually, that dude, Wish broke me. Wish. Did you ever watch Wish?
I did not watch Wish.
Oh my God, dude. All right. So I had a problem with Wish. The first time I watched it with like my kids, and we sat there through it, and both of them, not my children aren't children. They're adults.
Right.
But it's kind of a family thing. There's a new Disney thing. We're going to sit down and watch it together. We've been doing it for years. Force a habit. They ask, I'll do it. But I sit there dead silent through the whole thing because that's what you do. Anyway, so the first time I watched it, I was very confused, and I found out that both of my kids were very confused about it. They were like sitting in there. I overheard some of this. They were sitting in there talking about who was the bad guy, and one daughter was telling the other daughter, no, the bad guy was clearly the king because he was the one doing all the bad stuff, and the other one was like, no, wait. The chick who wanted to make the wish only wanted to make the wish because he wouldn't grant a wish for her grandfather, and that wish was, incidental and petty. That's why he wouldn't grant it. It wasn't worth the effort to do so because it would require other things to be put into place that would support that type of activity in the first place. He wanted to be a great soldier or something. Anyway, so there'd have to be wars. So we're not granting that wish, right? And that's why she goes to pitch a fit. And I stepped in and I was like, now, kids, y'all missed one critical issue. And they were like, what? I said, it's the book. In the middle of this movie, this great and benevolent king goes to this evil book he's been told to never read and reads it. And from that moment forth, he becomes the silliest Looney Tune cartoon villain you've ever seen in your life, literally doing things that trip over his own feet just because it would make it more evil. It is ridiculously silly. and basically everybody wins through the power of friendship. And I hate it when they just resolve stuff like that, because that's not.
Oh, I
how
love
this-
the power of friendship. It's such a nice, tidy way of tying up the narrative loose ends, isn't it?
But why? Why can't we have some growth or an actual freaking character arc, or possibly some form of advancement or progress? Y'all love progress, right? Can't we have some progress around this thing? I mean, the person wanting the wish wanted the wish for her grandfather to have a wish, which is supposed to be a selfless act, except for her grandfather's wish is to be a famous soldier, a hero. So you're
gonna be shocked to learn that the screenwriters of Wish, both female.
Say it ain't so.
Yeah,
I never saw
I know.
it.
I know that really comes out of left field.
Imagine my shock.
Oh, there was a lot of people in that picture.
Oh yeah, it wasn't bad because of casting. It was entirely the plot and the narrative. It was entirely the plot and the plot. The plot has Swiss cheese holes that literally require freaking wormholes to exist for things to happen properly. I mean, it just was not very well put together. The voice work was on.
God.
The art isn't terrible. The actual film, as far as just looking at it, you can't really follow a story if you you remember the conversation we had about the Russian movies and how you don't have to have subtitles to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not like that at all.
Oh, it looks like that picture flopped pretty badly.
It did.
Worldwide total 255.
Dude, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, that's kind of a bloodbath, ain't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, and the reason was like everything was set up for it to be a huge banger for children. The problem is the adults couldn't explain what had happened to the children who had questions. The children
48% critic score. So even the woke critics weren't getting on board for that one.
Yeah, it involved too many layers of thinking, and then was very useless and resolved because the only resolution is we win, but now nobody gets wishes. You know, I don't know, I was very disappointed in that film. It's specifically the plot, and I have no shade against the actors or anybody but the writers that actually put that abortion together, because it never had a chance.
It'll be interesting to see what direction they go with the new CEO search. I have no idea how that's going to play out.
Well, they're going to go with some international globalist. You know this, man. You know this, man.
Let's go get an effete European douchebag.
No, it'll probably be a woman from New Zealand. I can't remember her name, but I've heard about this chick being bandied around. Apparently she was working somewhere in the New Zealand government and recently did a quiet step out, and nobody really knows what she's doing right now. And just so happens Disney needs a CEO. So I'm waiting patiently to see if it's her or the other chick. I don't see.
It seems like there's no possible way they could hire a white dude.
Yeah. But on the other hand, like I said, this chick did a quiet step out, and so she at least has a small amount of class. So that may be a saving grace, because that's basically what's been missing, is that certain creative touch, that bit of class that takes it from a fart joke, to an actual joke.
Oh, speaking of guys who are trying to quietly step out, have you been seeing Mayor Pete's act lately?
Mayor Pete,
like he's going on all these, like he went on Bill Maher and a couple of CNN, MSNBC talk shows, and he keeps having it stipulated that he is appearing in his quote unquote personal capacity and not as the current Secretary of Transportation. Which, who the hell said you get to do that? I've never seen someone try to do that before. Dude, you're a member of the president's cabinet. You don't get to go do freaking TV appearances and say, I'm just here as freaking Mayor Pete. Who the hell told you that? Get a hold of yourself, son.
I feel like there's a lot of things happening in this administration that aren't typically done.
Oh, I hope I live long enough to know the full accounting of what took place these last 4 years, like the real nitty gritty of it, the kind you only get when people write tell-all books on their deathbeds.
Right? Oh, wow. I don't know if I want to know, man, because I would be afraid to find out that my guess.
Because you know exactly how shocking it's going to be when we get a real full accounting of what kind of condition Joe Biden has been in since they first installed him in the presidency.
Exactly, and then then you've got to do the Alex Jones list, right? You've got to go through and lay out how much of this crap Alex Jones was right about. And it's freaking disturbing now, even not having the full breadth of it. It's currently now moderately disturbing how many times Alex Jones' crazy nut job theories happen to hit really close to the head.
Whether anybody likes it or not, wants to acknowledge it or admit it or not, Alex Jones has a drastically better track record of correctness than anybody in the mainstream news media, and it is not close.
He's got CNN beat with a stick, bro. That's
oh God, are you kidding me? He's got 10 of CNN beat.
It's. I mean, he might have been wrong about making all the frogs gay, but
they're turning the fucking frogs gay. They're still doing it. I was right about that too. They really were turning the fucking frogs gay.
But we're also turning the people weird. And weird has become a 4-letter word. Did you notice that?
Yes.
When they're trying to make MAGA seem weird.
Well, I guess there's one pretty momentous piece of news from this week that we haven't mentioned, which is RFK on Team Trump.
Oh yeah. I'm torn on that one. Because
did you listen? Did you listen to his speech?
I didn't. I missed it. I had some other stuff going on when that went down, and I haven't gone back over it.
I was amazed at how few things I disagreed on him with.
See, here's the thing: you got to remember, MAGA is not established on a conservative footing. It's actually established on the mid-90s liberal platform.
Oh yeah, it's a centrist movement if there ever was one. I mean, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying is the Overton window.
Nothing about Donald Trump has ever been right wing.
Exactly. The Overton window slipped so far left field that mid-90s liberalism appears to be conservatism to the weird progressive liberal that exists today.
Yes, the only thing that has changed is the position of the Overton window because the Democrat media complex decided to just go flying in flames off the edge of Eastwood Ravine into the chasm of wokesterism.
But there's also a reason for that too. Most of these American media sites have basically been co-opted by globalist regimes. The globalist agenda,
just as many of our government agencies have as well.
Did I mention that I'm a globalist? I have a counter globalist strategy. I've been going around and suggesting this. So they want open borders, right? There is a way. There is a way. Back in the old wagon train days, it was called Manifest Destiny. And the way it worked is a bunch of Americans went there, sat down, and poof, that became America. So if you want open borders, I say it works both ways, but we got to add a state. That's what it's going to take. So you want an open border with Canada? We just got Quebec. You want an open border with the next one? We just got them too. Everyone's protected under the Constitution. No one suffers. It's a beautiful thing.
How long do you think that Harris and Walz can realistically go without answering questions? Do you think they're trying? Do you think they're trying to ride this thing out all the way to the election without doing any interviews?
No, I think they're trying to ride it far enough for the collective memory of the TikTok crowd and the YouTube Shorts crowd to forget the fact that they were ever not associated as a team, and then they're going to go in and gaslight the living shit out of everybody. They're already laying down the groundwork for the gaslighting. You've seen some of these speeches.
Oh, it's already been well in progress. I mean, with just the stealing of Trump's policy proposals and presenting them as your own is pretty ballsy.
But the idea that Kamala was never a border czar, that she wasn't responsible for any of that stuff, that nothing involving the border should taint Kamala, because that was, what the hell?
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's really weird the way they're doing this. They're acting like she's never been vice president or a senator. All they're talking about is how she used to be a prosecutor back in freaking 2010. Like they put her on they put her on ice in a freezer until then, and just popped her back out and put her in the microwave when it was time to throw Joe out the window.
Right. It's weird. But then again, if you think about it, since she's been vice president, she's really done nothing much but keep a low profile, as low as a VP can keep.
Which is the exact same thing they used to do with Joe Biden, because they knew the last place they wanted him was anywhere near a live microphone. And it's been almost an indistinguishable policy with her too.
Right.
I can't. Over 3 years ago, she tried to do a friendly softball interview with Lester Holt, where he was holding her hand 90% of the time and only asked her a couple of very gently tough questions, like maybe when are you going to the border? And she melted down into a puddle of goo. She completely lost the script, and it turned into a disaster. And I don't think she's done any sit-down interviews since then.
You might be right, but Queen Bird's got a really good point there. She is running against her own administration. She's running against her own record right now. The past 4 years are not being kind to her.
It's a novel approach to try and run as the outsider when it's currently your administration.
Yeah, see, that's
a bold move.
See how it plays out for him, Cotton.
Yeah.
Wow. Like, okay, so you know why she chose Tim Walz, right? I had to have a good sit down think about this one, because I can't find any benefit.
I think the top line reason why they chose him was they thought his military service would cancel out J.D. Vance's military service. And I think they fell so in love with that idea, they didn't bother actually vetting the guy as hard as they needed to.
So here's my theory on it. They needed someone that was the right shape to fit in the right hole, but that no one in their right mind would pull the trigger on Kamala. Right? So if they win and Kamala's president and she has a massive coronary her third day in office, fucking Tim Walz becomes president. Can you imagine a Tim Walz presidency? Yeah,
so many boys' rooms, so few tampons.
Well, it's not just that. The man is is damn near card carrying communist. He is full on socialist.
He can make a compelling argument as the most radical governor in American history.
One of him and Gretchen Whitmer, and there's a couple others. Wasn't Cuomo? Cuomo was a mayor, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's about 90 years ago, Huey Long in Louisiana, right. he was considered so left wing. He was pretty much communist adjacent. But Tim Walz has signed stuff that would have scandalized Huey Long.
Right, that he would have shivered.
Yeah.
Hey man, that's a little much, don't you think?
No. Yeah, like really? That might be a bit far. Jesus.
Yeah, no, Waltz had a really nasty, ugly COVID record. It wasn't good.
You know, something else I noticed recently is you'll notice how every time the left tries to hold up a man as an example of this is the kind of acceptable masculinity you're allowed to have, it is always 100% of the time Tim Walz, Doug Emhoff, Prince Harry. We can go on and on. 100% of the time, it is a man who is in a subordinate position to a more powerful woman.
You know, something that always kind of tickled me, and it's a very true statement. And it's one of those that sounds cliche until you meet a few great men, you know. But they say behind every great man is a great woman. And until you've met a few people that are considered, you know, whether local celebrities or whatever, some level of greatness, and you realize that this person can't tie his shoes and didn't pick out his socks this morning because his wife did that for him. That's not a put down. That is to anyone.
Well, no,
who
I mean,
things like this work, that is a high honor to be standing next to a great man. And
a lot of there are a lot of great men who would not have been great men if they had married differently.
Right. And then we're not talking about money here, folks. We're talking about the actual like mental and social support of a partner who's in the game with you.
Is there a John Adams without an Abigail Adams? There is not a chance.
Great point.
Or a James Madison without a Dolly Madison.
Facts. That is absolutely on point. I mean, and I just find it funny, this whole, you know, anything you can do, I can do better equity movement. Ain't none of you girls gonna be out there running that freaking oil rig.
No.
Y'all ain't going to the North Sea. You're not going to be doing no 300-foot deep welding in a freaking barometric chamber ovulating. I just don't see it. I don't see any woman with any level of, I don't see any man with any level of sense taking that job on. I mean, it is murderous.
And I think we have long since lost the script of what feminism was actually supposed to be at the outset. What it was supposed to be is the idea that women shouldn't be precluded from pursuing a career if they can do it just as well as a man can, which is a not unreasonable position that I think nearly all people agree with. However, somehow we have gotten all the way from that 50 odd years ago to this completely insane idea that every profession should have a 50-50 down the middle split of males and females in it, and that is how you wreck a society.
I'm not specifically against the idea of women working. I say go for it, man. Like, do what you do.
No, nobody said that.
Let me finish. It's going to be very difficult for you to manage a normal society, normal in the sense of history, not in the sense of the modern audience. It's going to be real hard to maintain that society when you no longer have any nuclear families left because everybody's working in the steel mills.
Wait, I thought the nuclear family was white supremacist.
We see that's exactly the issue here. The only problem with white supremacy is they have bad PR. They have terrible PR, dude. They need a good old fashioned like Deadpool movie or something.
Yep. The nuclear family is racist. Math is racist. Showing up on time is racist. You know, pretty much everything we associate with being a responsible, upstanding member of society, we have heard it declared racist in the last half decade.
You're not wrong. You were not wrong on any point of that. And not only has it been declared racist or ist of some sort, patriarchal, you name it, bigotous, whatever. Not only that, it is depicted in movies, TV, and rap songs as being a negative virtue, as not being virtuous, to be on time, to have a job, to get paid, to pay taxes. These things are all depicted as if only morons do those things, you know?
Yeah. I guess the new form, the new conformity is refusing to conform with anything. And if anybody calls you out on it, you say, "Shut up, white supremacist." Stop imposing your racist ideas on me about showing up on time and doing work.
Dude, I'm not going to explain why I do this, but just about any time I arrange to be somewhere, I'm not on time. I'm 45 minutes early, and I park somewhere where I can see the general layout of the place before I go. And that's a job site. That's meeting somebody from YouTube. That's planning a freaking date, bro. Like, unless I'm very familiar with the area, I will go become familiar with the area. You can call it paranoid.
It's like I've been telling my kids their entire lives. Being a place you're supposed to be at the time you're supposed to be there is the one thing in life that is completely within your control.
Exactly. I mean, occasionally it's not, but 99.9% of the time, some few preventative measures would have gone a long way to prevent you from it being late. Lateness is a choice.
But if you're a person who's just habitually 5 or 10 minutes late every day for no good reason, you're making an ass out of yourself and a bad employee for no good reason. You are getting the simplest thing wrong about being a good employee.
Well, Kissy May, describing what happens when a bloated federal government gets involved in social issues. No, ma'am. The bloated federal government are the social issues. Without the government programs that are creating the spaces in which these social issues could take place, people would be forced to, rely on family and have social structures. And without the family and the social structures in a small community, you end up with this weird balkanized statehood that we're living in today. Everybody hates everyone else and no one wants to conform to anything except for their particular little corner. And I mean, it's like what were we watching earlier? We were watching a lowrider meet, and 80% of the people there were Mexican, and the 20% was split pretty much equal between black and white. But you couldn't tell by the cars; they were all virtually the same.
Oh yeah, that's the way that Southern California classic car meetups, they're always like that. It's 80% Mexicans, and then the other 20% is mostly white guys in their 70s and 80s. And a few black dudes.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just the way it is. Take my particular hometown here. We have this place. Now, this doesn't happen anywhere but at this place. We have this old place, been here since the 20s. It used to be an old ice cream stand, just over there on the corner between two roads, and eventually it became a diner back in the 40s. And was a diner all the way up until like a little while ago when it started having to compete against fast food restaurants. It started like trying to expand its menu and stuff. Anyway, it's gone horribly downhill. But to this day, if you walk in there, you will notice that the white people sit on the left side of this restaurant and the black people sit on the right side of this restaurant. And I've always thought that was really weird. And it wasn't until one day I took a friend of mine to lunch. And I sat with them over there, right? And I'm sitting there. I was like, dude, can you tell me why y'all sit over here? Oh, my mama sat over here. She sat right there. And I sat right here when I was 12, right? And here he is with his kids, and they're all sitting in the same little booths over yonder. And that's all it is. That's all it is. It's habit. It was force of habit. There ain't nobody making nobody do nothing, but there's an auto segregation that takes place in this one place because everybody sits where grandpa brought them.
Yeah. And I think I brought it up a few weeks ago, how crazy it was for me, the experience of going to Canada and seeing the unconscious self-segregation that takes place between Anglophone Canadians and Francophone Canadians. And what makes that even crazier is that there's not even a racial divide there. It's just white people separating themselves from other white people, and they do it without thinking about it. If it was a restaurant, like you were saying, then all of the Frenchies would be on one side, and all of the Anglophones would be on the other, and none of them would even think about it. It's just what they do.
Exactly. No, there was no thought process in it, man. There was no thought process in it. And they go in, they get their food, they go sit down where they've always sat. That's just. It's not like anybody makes it happen. And I got
it's incorrect and presumptuous and rude for any uninitiated outside observer to come in and look at that and think that something racist and evil is going on when there isn't.
Yeah, it's just a byproduct of the design of the building. There are two sides of the building. The bathrooms are in the middle. It's just the kitchen's in the middle. It's kind of built like a big H. You order at the front, and then you go right or left to go to whatever side. It's just nothing more complicated than that. It's simply self-segregation based off of location and family. The same thing happens in the realty around here. Certain areas expand in certain ways, whereas other areas just don't. And it has to do with like the philosophy of landowning between the two races locally. I mean, around here, people move away and go buy a big tract of land somewhere. But my other friends over here, they would rather go and get a 2-acre plot just on the edge of where their grandpa's got his land, and that's their plan. And that's just the way they do it. There's nothing wrong with either way. It's just he's going to have him a really cool car, and this other guy's going to have to, put himself in hock to buy a tractor. It's just a different land use philosophy.
Yeah, and people always take cues from their ancestors, whether they realize it or not, whether they want to or not, they always do. Are you still there, or am I monologuing now?
You're monologuing. I'm having sneezes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go get your sneeze out of the way. You know what else I want to talk about briefly before we get out of here in the time we have left?
Yes.
I think let's try our very best not to let the Trump assassination attempt fall off the radar. Okay. Because we still know shockingly little about the actual facts of what took place, and I think everyone shouldn't be okay with that.
Have you heard about the red truck guy?
I saw a mention of it, but fill me in on the details.
Okay. So, in the 20 minutes leading up to the shooting, a handful of people reported seeing a guy who was driving a red truck, who got out of his truck, went out into the AG building front lawn and run some people out from over there, saying that it was private property. You couldn't be over here. This is the same property that was being utilized for an information headquarters by the Secret Service and deputies and stuff. This is the property that the shooter was on the roof of. Mm-hmm. And he wandered around, was basically making a fairly significant ass of himself, running folks off. And then a few minutes before the shooting, he just gets in his red truck and drives away, leaving the gate open when he did. So some people on TikTok and YouTube have hunted him down. And when they asked him directly, were you out there clearing ground for the shooter? All he would say is, I'm not talking. I'm not answering. I won't answer it. That's no is a really easy word. It's pretty much ubiquitous across all human languages. It's effective and it's easy.
Yes. Especially when it's true.
Yeah, that's really when it's important. Any other answer is debatable and makes you look guilty of something, if not what you're directly being accused of. So what would we be accused of? Would he be being accused of, though? The guy in the video was saying that he cleared ground for the shooter so that the shooter could go over with his ladder and get up on the roof without being seen.
Well, I mean,
that's the theory.
The first question that pops into my mind, as it often does when we're talking about matters like these, is what is the non-corrupt explanation for what we saw that guy do? If there is one.
God, dude, if I had to find a linear sequence of events that started with Donald Trump waking up on that morning and ended with him getting shot in the ear that afternoon, and there not be corruption involved, time travel.
Oh, I mean, just in terms of the red truck guy, like what is the innocent explanation for what he was observed doing that isn't, I'm trying to clear this area so the shooter can access the roof of this building?
So he actually works on that property. That property was closed for that day because of this event. and it wasn't operating. And for some strange reason, he shows up at a property he works at on a day when he's not working and is obviously not there for the Trump rally. Because you
It
just
seems like
walked into that one.
it seems like something. If we had a functioning press, they might want to get to the bottom of that one.
Well, that's the funny part, is because it was actually people on TikTok and Twitter that actually went and hunted this guy down to ask him questions. And ever since they found him, he hasn't left his house.
Oh, yeah, because that's where we are now. The people doing the journalism are not the professional journalists. It's people like you and me.
Right. And I don't even know if I have that in your outro anymore. I've got a specific thing that I do for that. Nope. I removed it because I'm a bad guy. You know, that re-edit that I did on the video where it says, "We will send unto them only you."
Oh, yeah.
It's that's what I mean by that entire edit. Every part of that edit is designed to tell you that the mainstream media is leading you down the freaking fuzzy path for slaughter. At the other end of this path is the clearing, and the clearing is heaven. They don't care what's beyond the clearing. That's not their concern. Their concern is to get everybody to follow the little Judas goat. I don't like it.
Yep.
I don't like anything
Follow the bouncing gaslight. Turn your brain off.
Here, have a cell phone. Look at your shorts. See
Follow-
how funny Sasquatch is.
Here we go. Follow the bouncing gaslight down the AstroTurf path.
There you go. That's solid gold, baby. I'm telling you, we need to work together more. So where do we see all of this going, bro? Like, how much AstroTurf can they lay down? Can they lay down enough AstroTurf to put an installed candidate into office?
I think they are in a bit of a catch-22 at this point. I think there's no way you can get her to the election without doing any interviews or press conferences. And I also think if she does do an interview or a press conference, she's going to be ruined. So I guess it's a matter of choosing your method of execution.
She's agreed to a debate, and I was thinking about trying to get me, you, Jay, and Barney together for the debate.
Yeah, we should do that. I thought it went pretty well when we did the other one.
Yeah, I just don't know when it's going to be exactly, and I'm not sure what I'll have to do. I have no schedule, so you know.
Even though when I went back and watched that stream afterward, I think we weren't fully appreciating in real time just how disastrous that thing was for Joe Biden.
Right? No. Oh no. I was utterly flummoxed by that whole process. That was an absolute. He melted down. Donald Trump didn't do anything to that man. He didn't. He was helpful to the man. That man melted down.
I know. We actually saw him ease off the gas and pump the brakes because he didn't want to look like he was piling on a feeble, confused old man. We weren't expecting it to get to that point that early, but it did.
It did. I don't really know what he's saying, but here's what I think. You know, because he could have took a shot. There were 1,000 times he could have. That Donald Trump could have made a freaking ass of himself.
I know. He he left a lot of points on the board,
right?
Because I think he realized that this wasn't a thing where he needed to proactively win it. He just needed to get out of Biden's way and let him ruin himself. And I expect the next debate is going to be much the same situation. And I think Trump should take the exact same approach.
Is Walz an especially good speaker?
Not to my knowledge. Well, and I think God that I don't think there's any way he can talk himself out of the hole that he's in with the lying about his military record. I don't see any way you can thread that needle.
I'm still amazed she didn't choose Shapiro, man.
I know.
Just sitting right there. It was low hanging fruit.
It was the most screamingly obvious pick in the whole wide world, and that's That's pretty striking when the anti-Semitism lobby in your own party is so powerful that you can't choose the very, very obvious VP pick just
Right,
because
the
he's
best choice,
yeah.
because he wears a hat on Sunday. That was a bad joke. I
American
apologize.
101 says Tim Walz has admitted he's bad at debates, and I don't disbelieve it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was trying to figure out a reason. The only reason I can think of for them to choose Tim Walz as a running mate was to keep somebody from shooting Kamala. That's it.
I don't.
Because what
I don't know
happens,
how-
let's say hypothetically, tomorrow she gets a poison daiquiri, flops over dead, no VP. Okay, who becomes VP? Speaker of the House? Or is it chosen by the president?
Yeah, it's Speaker of the House and then President pro tempore of the Senate.
Right, okay. So Speaker of the House, which is Manchin? Who's Speaker right now?
Mike Johnson.
Johnson. All right. So Johnson I can't even say that out loud. So Mike Johnson becomes VP and gets a peek behind the curtain to see who's got their hand up Joe Biden's butt and makes him talk.
Yeah, they told us, and I don't know how true this was, that there was a final 3 finalists for the number 2 slot on the ticket. It was Shapiro, Mark Kelly, and Tim Walz. And when I first saw that grouping, I thought Tim Walz is by far the 3rd guy on that list.
Right.
Like I can think of compelling reasons to pick both of the other 2 guys.
Right.
I couldn't think of a compelling reason to pick him. So I'm at a loss to understand what's going on here.
Maybe it has to do with contrast. Maybe they're trying to contrast her being a dynamic dynamo concept against his stodgy old white guyishness.
Maybe they just really wanted to play Sweet Home Alabama at the convention.
How does Tim Walz get you Sweet Home Alabama? He wasn't a coach.
God, that's a fascinating question. A guy from Minnesota enabled you to play a Leonard Skinner song.
I don't see it, dude. I'm gonna have to find him.
I think only a Democrat thought process can get you from point A to point B on that one.
I'm just gonna need some receipts on that throughput, dude. I don't see it.
Yeah, I
Sweet
know.
Home
I sure would love to be a fly on the wall in that room, though.
What in the world are we living through, dude? Why is this timeline? Why?
Remember when our leaders used to be the most exceptional men among us?
Not personally, but I've heard tell of it, read about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, me either personally, but I mean, just look at either of the Continental Congresses, look at the Constitutional Convention, any of those things, and the 13 states all deliberated for hours and days figuring out we have to send our best, most talented, most exceptional men to do this very momentous work. And they agonized over those decisions because they wanted to send the best possible people. And now we just want a strong, powerful girl boss of color.
Wow. I had a conversation with a guy the other day. And the general topic, we were talking about the border. What was the name of the bill? The border improvement bill, the border.
Yeah, some shit like that.
Bill or whatever. Anyway, well, if you go look at that particular bill, 89% of it is nothing to do with the border. It has to do with sending money to Ukraine and Israel. And homie admitted about halfway through trying to defend this bill, like, why wouldn't the Republicans okay it? The Republicans wouldn't okay it because 89% of the bill had nothing to do with what the bill was supposed to be about. You're passing a border reform bill and sending $7 trillion to Israel and $3 trillion.
Just in the exact same sense that 90% of what was in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act was hippy dippy climate change bullshit.
Right. So he's like, well, they had to compromise to come together on an immigration bill that both sides could work with. And I was like, okay, continue that thought process. He's like, so basically They compromised on that level of immigration being in that bill, and that is the reason it got to the floor. And I said, so what you're saying is they bribed the Republicans with a little bit of that money for Ukraine and Israel to try to get Republicans to vote for it, and they didn't take the bait, and you're angry about it? He's like, no,
Well, yeah, because that's the way Democrats think. When you've got an evenly divided House and you just need to peel off a few Republicans to get your psycho left-wing boondoggle spending bill passed, Democrats feel like they can do that every time because history has taught them to believe they can do that every time. That never works the other way. Never ever does it happen that a few Democrats get peeled off to pass some bill that conservatives like. It only works in the Democrats' direction.
My experience, the reason that is, having watched the American Congress function for going on approaching 50 years, it seems to me, and I may be wrong, that anytime you have a Democrat who flips red, in almost every case, they immediately disavow everything there is to do about the party and will not cross that line back the other way for nobody's nothing, right? But when it goes the other way, they become rhinos.
Yep.
Right? Or dinos. Those two are basically what's driving the nation currently. But our dinos.
I think the last guy to switch from Democrat to Republican is still Jeff Van Drew, I believe, isn't it?
I thought Tulsi Gabbard did that just recently.
Did she become a Republican officially?
I think so. I think she's supporting Trump currently.
I knew she was supporting Trump, but I didn't know if she had actually become a full-on Republican.
That girl put serious dommy mommy thoughts in my head. That
you just love that gray streak,
dude. You have no idea. If I had a kink, that might be it. I think skunks are cute too, but don't tell nobody.
Yeah, she is a handsome woman.
Very handsome.
It says here she quit being a Democrat in 22 and became an independent until the present.
Right. So I think she's still independent. I think she's going to swing Republican. I think it's inevitable. I think
it seems inevitable because each time I see her do an interview, she sure does sound like a conservative.
Yeah, right. Seriously. So the results of that conversation with Caleb, I asked a perfectly innocent, like after that, which ended up like a gotcha that I didn't intend to be a gotcha. But he basically stated that they bribed the Republicans to vote on this bill. And I was like, yes, I agree. And he was like, wait, that's not what I meant to say. And I was like, no, it seems pretty accurate to me. But right. What's up, AJ? Right after that,
hey,
I asked a very simple question. I was like, I'm assuming you went to college, given the level of education you have on this whole political sphere that we're currently talking about. He's like, yes, I spent some years in college. And I said, I'm assuming you didn't graduate or you would have noted your doctorate by now.
Indeed.
Can I ask what you majored in? And he said, I don't want to answer that question. Jay asked him whether or not that degree that he was working on in college would have had direct real life application in the real world. And he said he didn't want to answer that question. And Jay was like, oh, Eskimo underwater basket weaving for 101. I mean, like
advanced underwater race huckstering.
Right. So my decision came down this way. I looked over and I said, you realize he's a political science major with a secondary in political history, right? You're dealing with a full-on communist. He just knows how not to say those words.
Yeah, they are good at that sometimes, aren't they?
It's really weird to me how communists are convinced they are intelligent, but when you come across them, they don't understand basic economic theory. They don't understand supply and demand. The only thing they understand is emotional jerk on the heartstrings. These are the guys that play guitar and they're named Caleb.
Yeah. And every single Democrat presidential nominee without fail, no matter how much of a true blue dyed-in-the-wool woke radical leftist they are, when it's time for the general election, they always start sounding like fiscal conservatives who want a middle class tax cut every single time.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. All right, bud. You know what time it is?
It is that time, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks ever so much for joining us here on the Blast Radius this evening, and an extra special thanks to our mysterious guest producer, the Grande Admiral himself. We do hope to have our regular co-host back next week. We do hope you all have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow and a fantastic week. We will see you back here next Sunday. Same curmudgeon time, same Sasquatch channel. See you later. Do not comply. Get off my lawn!
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay?